Okay, thank you. So the trapper can get in. My code on my phone is you got my phone? Okay. 108, 108. And just let him know the front door is open. Why should we come that way? All the way through the front. That's all. He knows how to do it. You ready? So there's a practice that we do, a Vajrayana. I can just talk. So there's a practice that we do, a Vajrayana practice, considering all beings as our kind mother. The trapper can get in. And my code on my phone is just tell everybody. The code. Just let them know the front door. Sorry, I didn't know. I should become that. Okay. So there's a Vajrayana practice that we do where we are considering all living beings as our own kind mother. And if you feel that you didn't have a kind mother, then you have two levels of practice. One is considering your mother and the vicissitudes of life that she had to endure as some reasoning in our deluded state for the kinds of behaviors she exhibited or did not exhibit. And then when you've gotten that taken care of inside yourself, then considering all beings as your kind mother. But there's also another practice that we engage in actively, and it is thinking of and remembering the ultimate goal of the Buddha's guidance towards awakening and liberation from the wheel of samsara, which is the wheel of birth and death, just living and dying and living and dying and living and dying. And so we have a raccoon, and he sounded like a man walking in the ceiling yesterday. I mean, it was so heavy. So sister said she saw it, it was a cute little something, but I'm gonna tell you, he didn't sound little yesterday. But sometimes we have to do things and make a choice about what offers the greater protection. And it's incompatible for raccoons to live in dwellings with human beings. And so we had to make a decision to have him trapped and removed. And of course, this is not our first rodeo with this. I think we've had to have the trapper come maybe at least 20 times since we've been here. It's a house built in 1901, the mother house. And it's just no way to even close off. We closed off everything that we could, and yet still they find their way in, eat their way in. You can even see where it looks like little hands have moved something in the foundation or tunneled under something. And so it's an ongoing challenge But the reason I bring it up is because as part of this practice that we're doing, um, and building our compassion with the supreme and unsurpassable Mahamudra of liberation. And it seems like it's a meditation practice, but actually, Buddha Master says it is not meditation practice. It falls under the category of cultivating, truly being able to cultivate compassion for all living beings. Um, and although we walk out the method in a sort of meditative way, it is really not a meditative practice, but it's an action practice. So, and part of it is that we recollect or we imagine the choices that our dear mother has had to make for us, and sometimes taking an action that caused the karmic repercussion for her. So I feel that way this morning, like that mother protecting her children and taking an action, and yet that action is going to have a negative karmic repercussion on me. But this is what we sign up for when we have children. You know, that sometimes we have to do what needs to be done, um, uh, even though the cost may be high. So I wanted to say that for us to really see things clearly, because sometimes we think if I do something over here that's not like the best option for everybody, I could do something over here that will kind of neutralize that. But no, every action has its own consequence, is what I'm saying. Just make sure you're building up enough of a wall of good karma that the other things that you do don't cascade over the wall. And if you build that wall high enough until there is the awakening and the shattering of delusion and illusion, then you won't have to worry about it. But between now and then, just make sure you keep building up that wall of goodness. So with that in mind, it dovetails right into my Dharma talk for today. And actually, it's based on an article that came out in 1993. But you don't have to always reproduce or reinvent the wheel. When you find something that's good, even if you didn't say it, use it. You don't have to always have your own teaching, your own slant on things. But when you find someone who's expressing something in a very sublime way, and it's better perhaps than the way that you could have said it, or at least you didn't think of it, then you should share it. You should share it with the people. So I have some excerpts that I want to share today from the article on 10 things science and Buddhism say will make you happy. Now, I'm not so concerned about what science says. The science, has been developed by people like me. And I mean, like, I have enough of that, but I do want to hear what the Dharma has to say about these. And I know a little bit about that, so I can add something to that I think is useful. And I won't go through all of them, but maybe we'll have enough time for me to share about 3 or 4. Because we're living in a time when there is an uptick in depression. There's never been a time that people have not been depressed. If you live in a society, if you live with other people, it's a good chance that depression will find you, or you will find it just in going through what it takes to live life with other people. And then, of course, if one is not possessed enough to be able to basically live a life of solitude, then they're going to always be seeking out experience with other people, and they have to take what comes with that. But the Buddha said that one thing that would help us is if we stayed with the present moment, stayed with what is happening right now. Not in the sense of devolving into so much feeling about what is happening, but just being present with what is happening. And he said, they sorrow, speaking, they sorrow the awakened men, included men, persons. They sorrow not for what is past. They have no longing for the future. The present is sufficient for them. Hence it is they appear so radiant. They sorrow not for what's past. They have no longing for the future. The present is sufficient for them. Hence it is they appear so radiant. So he was saying that being in the present, then we, without obsessing, like if your mind is in the past or your mind is in the future, I mean, like, when is it there? It's there now, right? So, but you're obsessing about the past or obsessing about the future, then one cannot enjoy the benefit of whatever stability is present right here, right now. I woke up this morning and I didn't feel good. Nothing physical was wrong. I just felt just a little, maybe a little tired, maybe, or maybe I could say even weary. And I immediately looked right at it and said, what is this? Not why am I tired or why am I feeling weary this morning, but what is this? And my answer was, it's a feeling. That's all. It's a feeling. And if I stay awake and don't fall back asleep, in 5 minutes, I'll have a different feeling. And a half an hour from now, I'll have a different feeling. And so, okay, it's just a feeling. A feeling is just a feeling. And when I switched it from what do I have feelings about and trying to get all into that to like it was just a feeling, immediately it vanished. It vanished. And then I had another feeling. And that feeling was, I don't know many people who have as wonderful a life as I have, who get to do what they want to do every day. Some have to get up and toil and labor, 8 hours a day and 2 hours getting there and 2 hours getting home. It's something that they hate, to pay for things that quickly they regretted that they bought, and having the chore, or I consider it a chore at this age, of having a house full of kids that they have to be responsible for in such a precarious time in our life. And this could go on and on and on, Somebody who's young and unemployed and has no way to feed their family. And, I could just list off a whole plethora of situations. None of those are mine. Basically, I get up and do what I feel like I want to do every day. Not doing things because I feel like I should do them, but because I want to do them. And have enough of a stability of mind to know what I want to do. To have the resources at the moment to do what I want. To have good friends on the path that understand this kind of life and walk with me, so that there is the joy of that friendship. I mean, my list could go on and on and on. So waking up in the morning and opening my eyes, and there is the arising of a feeling. Feeling is just a feeling. And he tells us how we can deal with feelings and how to uh, um, cause to arise wholesome mental states that will give us, allow us the freedom of a different feeling. And how to subdue arisen mental states that will free us up from and shift those feelings, mental feelings and bodily feelings. But this is the work we have to do. We have to do this work for ourselves. I mean, and it has to go beyond just talking about it. We have to actually do it right in the moment. Now, I could delve all into, well, it could be this. Or I wonder if it's that. Or maybe it's something. I'm just going to sit here until it becomes plain to me. Why? No need. I can just say an unpleasant feeling has arisen, and feelings come and go. They're impermanent. They're not necessarily based on anything happening right now. They're mostly tied into the sense of something that has a past has already occurred, or something that might happen in the future that's not here now. And so this is the way that we really practice Dharma. It's not getting our 30 minutes of sitting in a day. I'm not saying that's not a good thing. I'm just saying that growth and realization and freedom on the path is found like this, in these moments, dealing with the things that arise in the mind. We are advised to avoid conceit, and sometimes we're not sure what that is. I mean, we know about a conceit that makes gives one a sense of superiority, that kind of conceit. But that's not the only kind of conceit that the Dharma talks about, because the Dharma includes thinking you're inferior to others, always thinking I'm inferior to others, I'm always thinking I'm not as good. You're always thinking about yourself, right? In relationship to others. So it's the conceit I, not just conceit, period. It's the conceit I. So it doesn't matter whether one is always thinking they're superior, or whether one is thinking always that they're inferior, or whether one is even thinking that they're equal to. We can start with the superiority or the inferiority, then we get to self and others are equal. But that's like halfway to the destination. If you're trying to get from here to here, you got to go all the way to get there. You can't stop halfway and say, I'm home. You have to go all the way. So then it's not even thinking in terms of self and other at all. The ideal then is a kind of a flow state in which we unself-consciously respond to things. And that's why we train the mind. It's just that the mind is not trained. The mind is unruly because we haven't exercised it in a certain way. We've thought about things in a different way. And he says, well, if that's not working for you, let me give you another way to think about things. That's all we're doing, is pondering, considering, reflecting, contemplating on things. And so he shows a more resourceful way for us to use our thinking. So when we develop in virtue, there is less of an I in the mix. And that brings us a certain kind of gladness, a kind of ease. He said, though possessing many a virtue, one should not compare oneself with others. That means not deeming oneself superior or inferior. That's where we start. Until we get to the place of we're not even thinking in terms of self and others at all. So now you can draw this line from here to here, and you can know where you are right now within that frame of thought. That becomes a practice unto itself. So you might say, I'm giving some practices or methods today that can that we could use to enhance our cultivation. Not so much enhancing our worldly, intellectual knowledge of Buddha jabber, but actually walking something out that internally we can reference and internally we can evaluate. When people look at you and judge you from the outside. Yeah. So we shouldn't turn and look at that projected mirror. He said, turn and look inward. So these are the little practices that we do to grow on the path. He said, in the world, we validate our wealth creation by how much we accumulate and by the things that we have, that we indulge upon our comforts and then evaluate ourselves in terms of the other, what the other has versus what we have, and we determine or establish how much wealth we have based on that. But in Buddhist terms, we validate our wealth creation by giving our money away to support what's really important in life. So although I have nothing, I consider myself rich. Because I give my resources to the pursuit of well-being and truth and goodness. Because for me, those are the goals. And the Buddha said the idea that getting in this world brings us genuine happiness is a false refuge. And I'm not saying that you have to give away everything and walk around like a pauper. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that there's a joy to be found, a joy unspeakable to be found when giving is getting. He said, knowing the bliss of debtlessness and also recollecting the bliss of having, enjoying the bliss of wealth, the mortal then sees clearly with discernment that these are not worth 1/16th of the bliss of blamelessness. Now I'm throwing out different things to ensure, to encourage, to build up your gladness in the Dharma. You don't have to try to take all of them, but just consider this week the one that jumps out at you, because he's giving you a way to abandon the false refuge and to take up the truth. In our practice, I mean, the whole goal is to attain awakening, right? Spiritual awakening. And you could say on a very rudimentary, accommodatable level, that would mean to optimize our compassion and our wisdom. And then all these other things come with that optimization. There's a dear friend of mine who thinks that they are awakened, but I say you're only awakened to the degree that compassion and wisdom is a spontaneous flow. And the signs following it are the capacity to articulate the truth in a way that's understandable to others. A skill, a vidya in being able to speak in a way that people can deeply understand a truth and find a way of escape for what imprisons them. And so no matter how great of an experience we might have in meditation, if we don't have the verifying qualities, then we have to be careful about assessing our attainment, because the signs should also be there, equal to the experience. Otherwise, it was just a bombastic experience. What the Buddha calls a pleasant abiding here and now. He didn't go over the top with it, but sometimes when we have such an experience, we have a big insight. We have a lift of heart and mind. It can be overwhelming to us. And that's why we have to rely on the safety of the Sangha. Because by ourselves, we could go astray. But the collection of the Sangha together, in them we can find comfort. So the Buddha says in the Majjhima Nikaya, he gains enthusiasm for the goal. He gains enthusiasm for the Dhamma. He gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. That means having a meaningful goal for doing this practice. It's not to be happier without things. It's not to just pretend that everything is rosy and look through rose-colored glasses. We can just call whatever is arising as that which is arising, and we don't have to be carried away by it or moved by it. We can just experience it. And then when we do and come out the other side, that experience then gives us enthusiasm for the goal. It gives us enthusiasm for the Dhamma, and we gain gladness. A lot of us have a lot of initiative around things that we do in the world, our occupation or our talent, or or a skill that we have, or something that we want to do, something that's on our bucket list. And we'll do whatever we have to do to make that so, to make it happen, to actually carry it out. But the Buddha talks about right livelihood. And he says, by whatsoever activity a clansman makes his living, he is deft and tireless, gifted with an inquiring turn of mind. I like some of this language. Gifted with an inquiring turn of mind into ways and means. And he is able to arrange and carry out his job. Heedful at administering or working at one's occupation, these are the factors leading to welfare and happiness. So this is a teaching for those, we say, in the lay life. But in the monastic life, we also have a right livelihood. We don't like just get up and wander around aimlessly in the nature all day and sit and hold our chin for a little while, and because we have taken up a livelihood. So there is work that we must do, initiative that we must show. There's a happiness that lies at the intersection between the pleasure of the holy life and meaning. And if we don't find that, then we become dull and lax, and then confused, and then bored, because we have not taken up our right life. So that's a warning, a caution for those who are reclusive. And then it's an encouragement for those who stay in the world and work and afford us the benefit of their skills, of their wisdom, of their talent, of their creativity. Everything that I enjoy, if I look at it, has come about through the creativity of others. And mostly they worked at it. So it was a job for them to make this furniture that I'm sitting on, a job for them to make this reading stand, a job for them to figure out how to create something like this technology by which many of you are watching on the screen. But this idea of taking initiative at whatever is our livelihood is what I'm speaking about. That could even flow over into our sense of friendship. We talk here about we're all living here alone together. So that it doesn't seem like we're just all bunching, and we're getting all mixed up and all involved in each other's business. No, we all live here alone but together. And how wonderful that is to be with like-minded individuals who have a single eye, the eye for the Dharma. And yet we can come together around that and still have our way of living separate and apart, yet together. Because the Buddha said we don't need friendships, just friendship. We need close friendships. He was talking to Ananda one day as they were walking through one of their communities. And Ananda said, friendship is half of the holy life. And the Buddha said, don't say that. Don't say that, Ananda. Friendship, good friendship, in the Dharma is the whole of spiritual. So think about what is being asked of you and what is being offered. The wholeness of life, the fullness of life being offered. So when we're standoffish, when we're like wrapped up in our own little world, and one of the greatest difficulties that we have at Heartwood is when um, monastics come and they're all just standoffish. They just want to stay in their room and whatever and meditate. Well, they don't need to be here because it takes something for us being all together here. If you want to do that, there's plenty of woods. Go, you can go sit at the root of a tree. But if it rains, then just put your robe over your head. But if you like a dwelling over your head when it rains, then some other things are required to enjoy that benefit. Some of it's just common sense. You got to have common sense before you have extraordinary sensibilities, right? I can always tell where somebody is by how much common sense they have. You know, they can fool you with talk, but when you look at the little things, then you come to know whether a person really has wisdom, whether a person really has any compassion for others, whether a person really has a sense of spiritual friendship. And so I try not to have so many rules here, because I just want to see what's coming up in you. And I want you to see what's coming up in you. You can ask yourself, is this enough? Is this true? So it's always easier to have like a line that people have to walk. But when people learn how to think for themselves, examine for themselves, reflect for themselves, choose for themselves, then they're at the starting point of being able to gain their own wisdom and to truly know oneself. And it takes knowing oneself before one can obey oneself. You can't just give up, I don't know what. You have to know what you want to abandon. And so that comes that yucky time of seeing oneself. Then comes the great decision. What do I want to do about what I see? That's a very challenging and pivotal moment. Because before anything can be done, there must be a willingness. Most of us know what we're capable of. We know our strength. We know our fortitude. We know our intellect. We know what needs to be done. But it's just a matter of, am I willing? Do I really want to? And it's great if we are at the high end of doing what we want to do rather than being at the low end of doing what we don't want to do. Because if we stay at that high end, we know the pleasure and the joy of having a goal, a great goal, and stepping into it. And we come to see the fruit and the benefit of taking up a challenge, taking the next step and recognizing that, you know, it's like when you went to elementary school and then you graduated and you went to junior high school. You know, so you were at the height of everything as a senior in the 6th grade. Then you went to the 7th grade and you were like, can you throw the low dog a bone? I mean, it was like the worst, the 7th grade. 8th grade, you're like in the middle, you know, not as low as you were, not as high as there is to get. And then you went to the 9th grade. Our junior high was 7th, 8th, and 9th. Here you are at the top of the food chain again. You know. But then the 10th grade, there we were back at the bottom again. But what we had overcome in the ninth grade gave us some fortitude to be in the 10th grade, even though we would get our comeuppance every day. And so we need to use those times when we're in a time of growth, a learning spurt, to recall. Now, if we're talking about recalling something in the past, this is what we recollect. We recollect the progress that we've made. We remember both what we endured, to grow and to develop, and then saw the resultant fruit of that. And we are glad. And we see this is no more than the same. Taking another step, halting it first, planting one foot in front of the other, and then we walk sure-footed. Just watching a baby learn to walk, something like that. And the baby plops down and falls, but the baby doesn't say, "Oh, shoot." The baby just giggles and laughs, pulls itself up, and go again, and plops down and laughs again. Pushes themselves up and goes until they become wobbly but stay on their feet. And then bit by bit, they become sure-footed. And when they're not too sure-footed, they can look at the distance and say, "That's where I have to go now. Let me see, how will I get there?" Well, if I go straight across, there's going to be a lot of falling and getting up. But there's some furniture over there. So they'll start inching along furniture to get to the other side of the room. Even babies have more sense than we have sometimes. So we can look at all of these things. If we keep a beginner's mind, we can know how to surmount challenge after challenge. So for the one who is noble and energetic and lives the lay life, he said support for one's parents, assistance to one's wife and children, consistency in one's work. This is the highest protection. Protection from what? Protection from suffering. The highest protection from mental suffering. So the one who has a bent for the lay life, who enjoys its benefits, there's no harm and there's no foul in that. So don't call me every week crying about, "I wish I could be a monastic." Fulfill your duties. And whatever you choose to walk in it, walk in it. Find that in it which is bound up together with goodness. With what else he said? He said with enthusiasm. What else did he say? With creativity. What else did he say? Heedful at administering or working at one's occupation. These factors definitely lead to welfare and happiness, the welfare of oneself and the welfare of others, the contentment to oneself because of one's craftsmanship and the contentment of others in the things that you create. So wherever you are, be there. Wherever you are, be there. Whatever livelihood you choose, walk in it fully. Looking at the side of gratitude, welfare, creativity, initiative, ingenuity, enthusiasm. I even went out after reading that article and found some other things. For me, it was one about what he says about just exercise, or walking, like when the Buddha prescribed walking meditation. And he talked about the 5 benefits of walking up and down. Now, I had always only known one way of walking, and that was lift the heel, slowly extend the foot, place the heel, shift to that front foot. And as you're shifting to that front foot, lifting the heel of the other foot, slowly shifting that foot to the front, placing the heel, shifting the body weight to that foot. And as you did, lifting the heel of the other foot. And that's this slow walking meditation. A monk came to live with us. I forget his name, Panyadipa, the one that lived with us for like 9 months, something like that. He was a Burmese monk. Panyadipa is actually from Burmese tradition. Anshin U Panyadipa is correct. But he would, when I watched him do his walking meditation, he was walking like sort of swiftly, and he had a path in the back behind the hermitage. And I guess it was probably 30, 40, maybe 50 feet. And he would quickly walk those 50 feet and turn around and quickly walk those 50 back, turn around and walk those 50 feet back. And it looked like, after a while, it looked like his feet were not even touching the ground. And he would start doing some kind of chant, mostly the Bhavam today, Rakantu, Savade Vada. What is that? What is that one? May all blessings be yours. May the Devas protect you by the power of the Dharma. May happiness truly be yours, or something like that in translation. And he would, and it's in 40 different stanzas. That's just one stanza. But as he began to recite that, those mantras, I call them, they begin to transform him until he just began to move. And that was when I abandoned slow walking meditation. Because I saw that there was something else happening there, that was lifting him into a certain realm of being. He became light, he became bright, he would look like a fireball. Well, not a fireball, like a ball of light as he was moving. And he wasn't walking like that. He had, his smile got brighter and brighter, and I saw he was entering into this blissful state as he moved. But here the Buddha he said, monks, there are these 5 benefits of walking up and down. What 5? And then he tells us the benefit of walking. 1 is fit for long journeys. 1 is fit for striving. 1 has little disease. That which is eaten, drunk, chewed, tasted, goes through proper digestion. The composure attained by walking up and down is long lasting. So that's why I no longer teach walking meditation as a form of mindfulness per se, and the slow lifting, moving, placing. So he had us sit down and meditate for that. When we're standing up, we're doing Dharma, doing the things that the Dharma says, not just thinking about them. And then when we're walking, we're keeping ourselves fit. In those days, they walked everywhere they went, so it made it possible. I can hardly walk from here to the car not be glad when I open that car door so I can sit down. Needing to do more walking, one becomes fit for striving, has more endurance, has more capacity. So Buddha Master mentioned that we need to have get a wellness center going, something around health and wellness. And we had that idea 2 years. We put a lot of exercise equipment in there, and we got a beamer machine that stimulates mitochondria, which are the things that are the sparks of life. And we put all that stuff in, but we didn't do anything with any of it. Nobody got on a piece of equipment. Nobody even used the beamer. And that was like a $5,000 mat that I was like, okay, all of us people who have these, life challenging illnesses, this is for that. Was willing to put the money out for it, but not willing, to put my effort really behind it. And here we are, like 5 years later, that's the thing, we need to do that. So I'm like, okay, the first thing we're going to do for wellness is have a walking strip, and we'll just start with that and see I'm going to see how many balls of light I see, on that walking strip. You're going to see me there. That's something I can commit to do. Just walking a little bit. It says then one will have less dis-ease, and our digestion will be better. And here's the jewel, the composure attained by walking up and down is long lasting. These monks are the 5 benefits of walking up and down. So gratitude for the Dharma helps us to align ourselves in a living way with Kusala. Yes. Ujjodaka was his name. Yeah, Bhante Ujjodaka. So it helps us align ourselves with good so that we're more likely to live, in a way that leads to happiness and to well-being. And he said, to one ever eager to revere and serve the elders. This is about having respect for your teacher and having respect for the role of teacher and honoring and respecting all teachers, not just yours. He said, these 4 blessings accrue: long life and beauty, happiness, and spiritual power. So a lot of us could just gain more by having the basic respect for the role of the spiritual teacher. Because it's not just words that are transmitted, but it's also the heart and the mind and the realization. We should not be so quick to outright reject things. We should not be so quick to pass judgment on others that those who are wise find to be wise. But we should show our own dignity by merely offering. You don't have to follow them, but we'll gain and not lose simply respect. So I think that's all I want to share today. Anybody has anything that they would like to share, you can unmute and feel free to share.
Venerable Panyawati, could you say more about the wall of good karma?
So many times, we can think we understand something and someone presents a different way that you can kind of look at it. I've always given the analogy around karma, which I will not do anymore because I'm holding it in a different way right now, and that I'm finding useful for me. But I'd always thought of it like having chocolate, you know, chocolate syrup and white milk, or maybe just say having chocolate milk and white milk. And if it was too dark, I could pour some of the white milk in and I could lighten it, right? And so I thought about karma in those ways. So yeah, I know I do these things. I commit some infractions. I do some baddies over here, but I do some goodies over here. And so I'm just thinking that the goodies I do over here will neutralize the baddies that I do over here, and I'll be okay. But the way that my teacher explains it to me says that can cause you to be a little bit lax. Let me give you another way. The baddies that you did over there, when you were doing it, its resultant effect was co-arising with it. It may not show up for a while, but it was being created at the time that you were instigating that which was unwholesome. So that is going to have its play out, period. I don't care how much good you do over here. That's going to have its play out. Okay, so it says the only thing you can do, yes, continue to do and build good karma, do meritorious deeds, do all of that, but not think that this is going to balance that, because that makes one not worry so much about if I do this, I'll just add a little bit of that, but it helps one to be more, or helps me to be more circumspect in not doing that, because there's nothing else I'm going to be able to do that's going to counter that. It is going to rise, in my life or some lifetime with this mind stream. And so I think now of whatever meritorious deeds I do, or whatever inures, to the fruitfulness based on goodness. It said, think of it more like a wall, and you're building, it's just a way to think about things, and you're building this wall. And these other things that you're doing, also they're coming towards you, but the higher you build that wall, that sea of unwholesome result cannot top the wall. So just make sure you're building your wall, but know that that's there. But it makes me less inclined and more circumspect to think about whether I want to do that other thing, because it's not as simple as doing a good deed over here and neutralizing that. I still carry the weight of it. I still carry the blame of it. I still carry or bear about, the fact of its creation. And it has helped me, is all I'm saying. I'm just sharing what has helped me to think about it in that way. Do I really want to do it? Because I remember one time my husband and I had an argument because he said something and it was the wrong thing to say to me. And I lit into him about it, like maybe a few hours later. And he was saying, wait a minute. I know what I said. And I was going to fix it. You didn't give me enough time. You didn't give me enough time to fix it, And so that meant that he knew he was wrong, but he was just taking his own good little time for when he thought was the right time. No, it's when you recognize right then, right there. Oh, my bad. I'm, really sorry. So I always think about that's the way I felt about, making an infraction. Well, I can fix it. But when you make it, no way to fix it, then you think more deeply about whether you want to make it, whether you want to do that thing, whether you want to say that thing, whether it's worth it to even think it just and not do it. Don't think it. And in this way, it helps our cultivation. It helps us to practice more surely, and we make quicker progress. We have less obscurations, and we're able to see truth right in front of us. That's
Thank you.
okay. So I think it's 10 after, and we'll close. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger. May you always be able to meet inevitable difficulty. I know you're busy doing something else, Santi Caro, but I gotta interrupt for a minute. I'm gonna send you an email, okay?